Welcome to another lecture in Empowerment Technologies. So, in this lecture, we will discuss the different types of internet threats. Okay, so there are numerous threats that we might encounter in using the internet. It could be as small as the simple annoying pop-up ads in your computer screen, or it could be as serious as losing your personal files and data through unauthorized access to your computer. On top of that, these several internet threats can be dangerous to the user's security and privacy. Okay, so one of the most popular internet threats that we can encounter is what we call the malwares. Okay, so a malware stands for malicious software. So it is basically a software or a program that is coded or designed to cause harmful effects to our computers, and they can also affect the normal functioning of the internal activities of our devices. Now, malwares can come through different distribution channels. So we have listed four here. So the first one is through a drive-by download. This is an unintended download of computer software from different sites on the internet. So let's say, for example, you visited an illegal site to download movies illegally. So let's say you wanted to watch a movie that is just recently released and shown in movie theaters, and you wanted to watch the movie for free, so you chose to go to a particular illegal site to freely download these movie file. So in in various illegal sites where people do illegal activities, this are also the places where you are much prone to acquiring or obtaining different malwares and different softwares that might cause harmful damages to your computer. So it happens when you unintentionally download a software while you are also downloading another file to your personal device. So it's really better to avoid going to sites that you are unfamiliar or sites that are illegal and or sites that are known to be dangerous to the users who access them. Okay, the next one is unsolicited emails. So these are unwanted attachments or embedded links in electronic mail or emails. These are possible mails that can come from sources that are unreliable or sources that could be sending unwanted attachments such as malwares and softwares that can compromise the security of your personal device. So another one is through physical media. So physical media are integrated or removable media that are plugged into your personal device or computer. So examples for these are your flash drives and memory cards. So it, it's I think it's also very common to us when we wanted to connect or plug in an external device to our computers or devices. We really have to make sure if those physical medias, if those removable media are already infected with a malware or a virus, because it would also infect our computer or our device as well. Another one is through self-propagation. So malwares has the capability also to spread on its own. It has the ability to move itself from one computer to another computer or from one network to another network. We will discuss the five different types of malwares here in this lecture. So we have the virus, the worm, the Trojan malwares, the spywares, and adwares. We will also include other internet threats that we might encounter, including spam, phishing, and farming. Now, we will define what is a virus. Okay, so virus is one of the most misused words in defining programs or softwares that can cause harmful effects to our computer or devices. So basically, a virus is just another category of a malware where it also has its own specific characteristics that makes it different from the other types of malwares. So virus is a malware designed to be able to multiply and transmit itself from one computer to another device. It could be through a network, such as your Wi-Fi connections, or through the internet, or from storage devices, such as your memory cards, disks, and flash drives. So almost all viruses are attached to an executable file. So executable files are types of files that are ending in .exe. I think if you're familiar with that, when you are going to install a particular software or app in your computer, most of these files are ending in, instead of .docs or .pdf, they are ending in the term .exe. So viruses usually attach themselves to an exe file. When the host code is executed, the viral code is executed as well. So we can actually compare a computer virus to a biological virus, so the virus that we can see in the real world, the virus that can affect the human health. So, as what we know in our lectures in science, we know that we learned that a virus can only spread and can only live and grow when it is attached to a host. Could be any living organism such as the human. So they can only multiply, they can only live, they can only grow when they are attached to a particular host. So the same thing also applies with computer viruses. So they can only multiply, they can only replicate when they are attached to a particular host code that can be executed or be run by the user. So it is a contagious program or code that attaches itself to another piece of software, and then that's the time that it reproduces itself when that software is run. So again, it spreads only when there is a human interaction or intervention. So this only happens when a user runs or opens that executable file, and then that malicious host file or program will then infect your computer. Now, another one is the worm. So, the worm is also another type of malware that is often confused also with viruses due to their common ability in self-replication. So, worms are standalone softwares because they do not require any host to replicate or to multiply itself. So, unlike viruses, they spread and self-replicate without the need to infect a host file or an executable file, nor the need for any end-user interaction. So worms are very independent, unlike the virus are very dependent to any host code that they can attach to. But worms can just replicate, they can replicate themselves without attaching to a particular host file or the need to for any user to open or run that program. Now, the worms work by eating the system, operating files, and data files until your drive is empty. Okay, now let's go on to Trojan malwares. So, Trojan malwares is considered as the most dangerous malware. So, Trojan, or it is also sometimes called as a Trojan horse. So it is actually named after the wooden horse that the Greeks used to infiltrate Troy. If you are familiar with the story of the Trojan War, you can also search on that. So when we look back to the story of the Trojan War, there is this what we call the Trojan horse. So the Trojan horse is built by the Greeks. So they use it to enter the independent city of Troy, and it helped them win the war. So the Greeks pretended to sail away from the city of Troy, and so the Trojans pulled the horse into their city as a victory trophy. So when the night came, there are actually a Greek force that are hidden inside that big wooden horse. So when the night came, the Greek force crept out of that wooden horse, that big wooden horse, and they opened the gates for the rest of the Greek army, which had sailed back under the cover of the night. So when the Greeks entered and destroyed the city, it ended the whole war and it ended the whole Trojan War. Just like a Trojan horse in the story of the Trojan War, a Trojan malware masquerades itself as a legitimate program, but in reality, they can contain malicious softwares or instructions. So they are computer programs that tricks the users into willingly running the software. So they are usually acquired through email or when you visit infected websites. Now, the most popular Trojan malware is a fake antivirus. So it could be as ironic as it sounds, but a lot of criminals are creating different softwares or programs in the form of an antivirus. So that whenever you install a software into your program, you would feel that you are already secured because it is an antivirus program, and then you will just later on realize that your computer is actually already infected with a Trojan malware. Now, unlike worms and viruses, Trojan malwares do not reproduce, they do not multiply, and they don't self-replicate. So, the damaging effects of these malwares can include the following. So, we have first one, they can irritate the user. So, this can be in the form of pop-up windows and changing desktops. So, if you happen to be infected with a Trojan malware, suddenly there are windows that suddenly opens and then suddenly closes. They can confuse or irritate the user. So another one is damaging the host or damaging the internal device. So this can be in the term of files being deleted in your computer, stolen data, or activating and spreading other malwares that are present in your computer. So your Trojan malwares can also create backdoors. So backdoor attacks are types of malware attacks that give cyber criminals an unauthorized access to a website by installing them through unsecured points of entry such as outdated plugins or input fields. So once these cyber criminals are already able to enter, they can now freely access your computer's personal data. So it is basically an undocumented way of accessing your system, bypassing the normal authentication mechanisms of your device. So another one is creating a denial of service attack. So this happens when there are malicious attempts by one or more people, causing the victim or a website or a node from a network to deny service to its customers or its users. Again, Trojans do not reproduce itself, but they must spread through user interaction, such as opening an email attachment or downloading and running a file from the internet. Now, another one is what you call a spyware. So, a spyware is a software or program that can track your internet activities, hence, it has the term spy in its name, accessing your information or asserts control over your device without your consent or your knowledge. So, in targeted attacks, spyware can be used by keyloggers who records everything you type on your PC by logging your keystrokes and thus gain crucial information or other intellectual properties that are saved in your personal device. So, a keylogger can be a software or a hardware. So, criminals can use this to record what keys that you have struck on your keyboard. So let's say, for example, in a particular bank, you have an online bank account. So you can do transactions online using your, let's say, your mobile phone or your computer. So once a criminal already has installed a spyware in your computer or in your device, they already have the power to know what's the password, what's the email that you have used, what's the username that you use when you want to access in your online bank account. So data can be retrieved by the person operating that key logging program. Okay, so we also have adware. So adwares is one of the most less harmful malwares that you can possibly encounter on the internet. So basically, an adware is a malware program that attempts itself to expose the compromised end user to unwanted or potentially malicious advertising. So it is written to transmit or contain advertisements, most of which are pop-ups in your device. So its developer is able to generate revenue by automatically generating online advertisements in the user interface of the software or on a screen presented to the user during installation process. If you ever encounter visiting websites, random websites, you might have encountered pop-up windows on your screen, or let's say, for example, you already closed that particular window or that particular browser, but you still see some pop-ups in your desktop, even if you are not already logged into your browser or your Google searches. The main purpose of the people who created adwares is, of course, to advertise their brands and services or products, but in a very illegitimate way. Okay, so those are your 5 different types of malwares. So there are also other internet threats that you can encounter online. So another example of an internet threat is a spam. So A spam is usually used in order to email malwares from bots or advertisers. So a bot is derived from the word robot, and it is an automated process that interacts with other network services. So bots are typically used for either good or malicious intent, but a malicious bot is self-propagating. It can replicate itself by its own, and it is designed to infect a host and connect back to a central server or servers that act as a command and control center for an entire network of compromised services or devices. Spam also increasingly sent from computers infected by computer viruses, converting them into a spam sending drones or zombies. Now, a spam email is a form of commercial advertising. So it is actually the origin of how spam came to be. So it is economically viable because email is a very cost-effective medium for the sender. If you wanted to send an email, you can send a message or a content without any particular limit. You can have pictures, you can have images, you can have other documents attached to it. You can have a 10-pager letter in your email. Now, if just a fraction of the recipients of a spam message purchase the advertised product, the spammers are making money. So that you, another internet threat that you might encounter is what we call the phishing. So phishing is a type of internet fraud that seeks to acquire a user's credentials by deception. So typically, it includes the stealing of passwords, credit card numbers, bank account details, and other confidential information. So phishing messages usually take the form of fake email notification from banks, from providers, from ePay systems, and other organizations. So in the process of phishing, you will be prompted to access a fake site where you will enter your credentials or sensitive information. So this information is exactly what the phishers are after. So once a fake site is already accessed, they will generally look exactly like the original. Or a fake site, whenever you access a fake site, it would really look like the real or the original one that a user will not suspect anything is wrong when they enter their username and password to access the site. So another phishing trick is to use links that look similar to the URLs of your credible site. So this trick is designed to ensnare less experienced users. So fraudsters are most interested in personal data, which provides access to money. So that is the very main goal of those criminals who are called phishers. So a careful user will notice that a link in the browser command line is in fact different from that of the legitimate site. So these links may begin with an IP address, though big companies do not commonly use links such as these anymore. So phishing URLs often closely resemble the genuine URL of a real or a legitimate company. They may include the name of the original URL with some additional words. So let's say, for example, the original one is www.examplebank.com, but when you log into a phishing URL to a fake site created by phishers, the fake site's URL. So it will become www.login-examplebank.com. Now, phishers are constantly improving their technologies, and this has resulted in the appearance of a new trend, which is what we call farming. Now, farming is a higher level of phishing where it targets the domain name system or the DNS of your devices. Now, in farming, unlike the fishers who use email to achieve their goals, the farmers obtain identities through official websites. So, so they redirect users to bogus websites by changing legitimate digital websites addresses on DNS servers to fake ones. So fishers are constantly improving their technologies. So this type of internet fraud also targets access credentials such as usernames and passwords, but unlike phishers, they would create more serious threat because it is next to impossible for the user to spot the fact that they are being scammed.